Welcome, Libra. It's your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 30th of March for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Going to share with you the big themes of the week first, including that Libra full moon. Then on screen, your adventure as we come into the week. Always influential as a backdrop for the whole 7 days. I'll then go through each of the influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what you can expect in terms of energy, work, relationships, and finance. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. As we go into this week, there continues to be that big cluster of energy in your opposite sign of Aries. So very much to do with your connections to others. But one of those connections, Saturn to the mighty but tiny Pluto, is particularly significant. I will unpack that. But also on Monday, your ruler Venus is traveling and she's leaving the sign of Aries where she's detrimented and moving into the sign that she rules beyond yours. And that, of course, is Taurus. What's the significance of that through to the 24th of April, particularly for you? Now, also as we go into this week, Mercury, which has been going through an incredibly sluggish phase, is going to be forging two incredibly important links, which can be very positive for you. Please stay with me for more on that. But what about that full moon? What will it mean this year? Because as much as we see all those kind of memes on Facebook and other social media, when we have lunations, each one is completely unique. What will this one be like for you? I'll unpack that for you. And by the end of the week, something that may have been causing a few headaches, and it might be around your financial situation, can start to make a lot more sense. So on the screen is your event chart. As ever, we need to be mindful of the two luminaries, the sun and the moon, but also your ruler Venus. But first of all, let's look at the moon because it's not in your sign as the week begins. It's actually in the 12th house. And the 12th house can be where we want to perhaps withdraw a little bit, think about things deeply. You might find yourself actually being a little bit anxious. Maybe something that happened over the weekend has really got you thinking. However, the sun is on Tuesday going to move into a much more vibrant part of its journey through Aries because in Decan 2, that's sub-ruled by the sun. Now, the sun obviously likes being in Aries. It's a fire sign, which the sun is all about fire, and it's exalted there. But in Decan 2, that's sub-ruled by the sun. So if you're wanting to bring some extra energy to a relationship situation, that's a good portent. But what about the planet of relating, Venus, your ruler? She has been going through a sign that is said to be detrimental. I think Venus in Aries can be great for Libra people because it gives you a bit more appetite to make the first move. But of course, when it first entered the sign, it did merge with Neptune and Saturn. So there may have been a relationship issue about 4 weeks ago that started to become uh, much more thought-provoking. Maybe someone else raised some issues. It might not have been a personal relationship. It could have been to do with your work or a contractual matter. But Venus moving on Monday into the sign of Taurus, it's earthy, sensual. It can be very much about our values, our sense of our own self-worth, but very much to do with money. But for you, the eighth house can be shared resources, but it can be much more sultry intimacy. So if you got through that challenge of a month ago, or you've met someone over the last month, or you're trying to shake off some kind of issue around a contractual matter, better news can come, I feel, from Monday. But just be aware, you could find yourself, if you are single by the end of the week, drawn towards someone who you may find very, very powerfully difficult to resist. And whether it's a good relationship or not, only you could say, but you may be tempted. However, what we do have is Saturn in that second, seventh house, really saying to you over the next couple of years to be strong on your boundaries. If someone's not meeting your standards, stand up what you feel. It could be bruising at times, but the link to Pluto is exact as we go into this week, and that's in your sector of true transformation, and that could be around romance. So if you make yourself unavailable to the wrong person, even if they do have some qualities that you like, you then create the space to be available for a much more profound connection, not just this week, but over the next couple of years. So just bear that in mind. But I mentioned about the practical part of your scope and Mercury retracing its steps in Pisces. It really has been very frustrating. And because, of course, Saturn's moved out of the sixth house, very much to do with obligations, responsibilities, uh, even on nervous energy, if you have felt very drained recently, not a surprise. But as I mentioned at the start of this week, Mercury forges two standout connections. And there they are. Jupiter, the planet of fortune, continues in the most visible part of your chart, but is out of retrograde through to the end of June, but is blessed by the presence of the part of fortune this week. So, whereas communication may have been very, very uh, confusing, bogged down, opaque, a conversation you have this week can give you a real sense of uplift. Some extra enthusiasm, positivity can come into the situation. So something that has been blocked can start to move, which is brilliant. Now that brings us to that full moon. So the moon's moved forwards, it's in your sign, but there's a paradox because the full moon in your sign, in a way, is asking you to think and be more like an Aries, which is take direct action to suit your agenda. Because this seventh house energy can see someone significant developing in your world, or it can see you thinking a lot about existing relationships. But one of the challenges for Libran people is you're so attuned to other people, you can lose your identity a little bit. And that can be true of anyone who's got Venus or the moon in the seventh house of their natal chart. So it's an opportunity over the next 2 weeks just to remind a few people about, look, this is what I need. And do be single-minded about that. The right people will get it. But by the end of the week, what we do have is Mars moving forwards and coming into a sextile with Uranus. And I think that period right through February until now, where uh, that sense of uncertainty, especially around your physical energy, maybe around a job, may also be around finances. Suddenly it all clicks into place and you feel much more optimistic. And that is going to be helped by the fact the sun by the end of this week is squaring up to Jupiter. And, if we give out a positive energy, which Libran people often do, uh, we can wonder if it does always come back to us. But I think by the end of this week, you may be pleasantly surprised by how it can. Now, I'm going to recap those four important areas of energy, of work, of relationships and finance. But just to say, if you've yet to watch your deep dive video for April, that's on the screen now. If you've yet to watch your Saturn 29-year cycle video on the screen, if you'd like to work with me directly, please see my testimonials below. It's a big part of what I do. And you can sign up for your free daily horoscope if you've yet to do so. Get it fired to your device each morning for your celestial pit stop early in the day. And if you'd like to order your personal horoscopes, the 50% special offer is still ongoing. Please see below for more. So to recap, I do think this is a significant time for relationships, and the full moon in your zodiac sign could push you to release any that aren't working very well. I think Venus moving into the eighth house is kind of saying to you, you either need to be all in or perhaps you're going to make yourself more available. But if you are single, the square between Venus and Pluto at the end of this week could lead to a hot encounter. When it comes to your work and physical energy, I see improvements this week in both areas. In fact, there could be a real slice of good fortune, which is really pleasing. And then when it comes to uniquely your finances, Venus moving into the eighth house joining up with Uranus, the sun moves there on the 20th of April. I think you may, by the end of the month, get some payback on some of the uncertainty which has just played out for you over the last 7 years with Uranus in that very unpredictable part of your chart. But I think if you're very entrepreneurial, yes, finances can improve as we go into April. Have a great week, Libra. Thank you so much for joining me. All the best and goodbye.